I'm Andrew Moisey.
And I'm Gordon-Levitt.
Welcome to Movie to the Bones.
In our in-depth studies of most current films, we discuss complexities of filmmaking without telling you the story.
We lift the veil on the filmmaking process to give you an entirely new perspective on film.
Come on, join us in our discussion and learn to watch movies through the eyes of filmmakers.
And for today's film, Snowden.
Wow, I've been expecting this one for a long time. Academy Award-winning director Oliver Stone tackles one of the most fascinating true stories basically of 21st century.
Snowden's a politically charged thriller starring Joseph Gordon-Levitt and Shailene Woodley. It reveals the incredible untold personal story of Edward Snowden, the polarising figure who exposed shocking illegal surveillance activities by the NSA and became one of the world's most wanted men.
He's considered a hero by some and a traitor by others. No matter which you believe, the epic story of why he did it, who he left behind, and how he pulled it off makes it as one of the most compelling films of this season.
Think of it as a Google search, except instead of searching only what people make public, we're also looking at everything they don't. Emails, chats, SMS, whatever.
Yeah, but which people?
The whole kingdom, Snow White.
The NSA is really tracking every cell phone in the world.
Most Americans don't want freedom. They want security.
Except people, they don't even know they've made that bargain.
Are they watching us?
Oliver Stone and Kieran Fitzgerald wrote this story in ultimate secrecy. Good fit for a biopic about men whose life was all about secrets and revelations. Story was primarily based on novels written about Snowden, as at first Stone had no access to Snowden himself. But that will change in 2014 when these two finally met.
Snowden is the man who blows the whistle on abuse of power in government agencies designed to protect us. The level of discretion Snowden had to employ to get information out was perfectly aided by the well-written and the believability of his domestic life. It made his extraordinary achievement possible in our eyes.
Agree. Script is a work of an experienced writer who is comfortable in bringing to life polarizing characters. He's not only great at what he does, Stone is also a vivid political activist, someone who has already made his mind and stands firmly behind his version of truth. For Stone, Snowden is hero since the moment he heard about him, and that's dangerous zone for any filmmaker. Cracking under enormous pressure of staying objective, even though knowing he probably wouldn't, Stone wasted too much time trying to clear Snowden's name, turning this film into Snowden's defense testimony. I personally expected a story about most horrific mass surveillance ever carried out by government over its own people. Instead of it, I watched a love story that was cut short by heroes' selfless actions.
Well, one doesn't detract from the other, rather they complement one another. An extraordinary event is unfolding beneath the veneer of a contemporary de facto relationship. I actually like that angle. However, on paper, I think it read more true to life than how it ended up on screen, but we'll talk a bit more about that when we discuss Stone's direction.
I absolutely agree with that, and don't get me wrong, the lack of objectivity still doesn't take anything away from brilliance of Stone's writing, especially from scenes filmed at the Hong Kong's The Mirror Hotel.
Which were excellent.
Absolutely.
Yeah. The script does follow the well-trodden path of the hero's journey, which Hollywood seems to struggle to get away from. It's been on that trajectory since the late 1970s and Star Wars, but it does make attempts to break away from that pattern. His diagnosis of epilepsy and the real-life concerns helped temper the bombast of a typical Hollywood retelling of such a contentious and political media figure.
After several box office disasters and, let's be honest, extraordinarily dull films, Oliver Stone decided to take on Snowden, character controversial enough to deliver final blow to his career.
We shouldn't forget, Goran, that Oliver Stone has a status amongst film directors which is quite legendary. Platoon, Born on the 4th of July, The Doors. His work reads like a textbook guide to making it big in Hollywood while still being able to maintain a distinctive voice that inspires audiences to want to see the next Oliver Stone movie. For me, Snowden was such a movie. I wanted to see where Oliver Stone was up to find out what his take was on this compelling figure.
I don't know if you noticed, Andrew, director of this film is not overwhelming, opinionated Stone we know, one that feels heavy on our cerebral processes. On the contrary, we enjoy work of humble, subdued director who feels that this story might be trickier than any others he turned into films so far.
Look, Stone likes anti-heroes, and Snowden is the perfect subject matter for him. His execution of the story seemed to be more confident when the stakes were higher. The scenes in the hotel room in Hong Kong, as you mentioned, where Snowden had isolated himself, were tense and believable. There was no straining to impress or evoke tension, it just was. The scenes were filled with anticipation and anxiety.
Stone's direction was pacey, but fluent, dramatic and sentimental at times, but never compromising its purpose to serve the truth. Yes, film starts with few minutes of typical Hollywood hero-making bullshit in an attempt to make us believe that Snowden is a real American patriot, but then Stone settles in and gains his ground.
Elsewhere, Stone overplays his auteurship. He doesn't always allow the story to just tell itself. We're compelled to feel some kind of pride in Snowden's military service. The swelling strings of the accompanying music recall a kind of patriotism from Born on the 4th of July. In this film, considering the events it portrays, it seems like an anachronistic choice, a tone of storytelling from more innocent times and therefore outdated. This story is playing out currently and is from very recent history, so choosing to frame the story like a Hollywood crowd pleaser occasionally did the story a real disservice.
I absolutely love the ending. Yes, we all knew that real Snowden will show up any moment, but Stone's delivery of that crucial scene was a masterpiece of its own. I regret that Stone decided to include so many Matrix-like visual effects that felt completely out of place. I would prefer seeing simpler treatment we all loved in Spotlight, for example. One scene that will stick with me is Snowden leaving NSI Hawaiian facility with intent to expose government. With smile of relief, he walks into this endless stream of light. Such a nice touch. Solid performances, at least by the lead cast.
Yeah, I think the performances by the lead cast were definitely solid, but generally they're a bit of a mixed bag. I love Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Edward Snowden. He was able to portray the inner life of Snowden, who has a distaste for media and whose personal expression is perhaps limited by his reluctance to play up to it. Levitt had a difficult task ahead of him, but he pretty much nailed it. He was consistent in his portrayal, which gave the film some leverage it lacked tonally. Shailene Woodley was really likeable as Snowden's lively and enthusiastic partner. They played their complementary extrovert and introvert personalities as key elements of their performances, individually and together. They gave each other some traction.
This is the aspect I wasn't really thinking about, and you are completely right. While it seems there is consensus about Joseph Gordon-Levitt and his almost certain Academy nomination, I was more impressed by Shailene Woodley, to be honest. We know Stone's female characters are fairly forgettable, but there was something different about this one. Shailene has quality of Jennifer Lawrence. She has this sweet persona that works great for her if she is chosen for right roles. Joseph Gordon-Levitt has and was at times a bit too robotic and almost self-conscious in an attempt to emulate Snowden's voice and behavior. He was good, but that performance was not organic. Snowden is very intelligent, insightful, and actually very eloquent speaker. Gordon-Levitt made him look way too geeky in my opinion. Cast was overall one of the most or best aspects of this entire film, aside from poor Nicolas Cage, who completely confused Jenner.
Nicolas Cage as Hank Forrester was really out of place in this film. He just didn't fit. I didn't like his performance at all. It was too big. It undermined Levitt's naturalism in their scenes together. However, the Hong Kong ensemble were terrific. Tom Wilkinson as Ewan McGaskill, the journalist entrusted with releasing the story to the world, understood the gravity of the situation and the enormous consequences of what Snowden was doing. Melissa Leo as photographer Laura Poitras was perfectly understated and lent realism to the hotel scenes, giving them an intimacy that enhanced them. Rhys Ifans as Snowden's boss seemed like a man exposed to all the kind of intelligence secrets that would make him immune to trust, and he played it like that too, expressionless and gave nothing away.
Okay, Andrew, it's time for verdict. No matter what you think about Snowden, whether he's a Russian spy or American hero, no matter what your position is on mass surveillance and its legitimacy, we should all agree that governments have no mandate to lie to their citizens. If they lie about this, they could lie about anything else. Snowden is an important film and Stone was a suitable choice. It could have been better, yes, less stained, more objective, sharper, but it's good enough to send you home reflecting on indisputable value of privacy. For this reason, I honor this effort with 3.5 stars.
I totally agree with you, Goran, and the value of privacy is invaluable. To that extent, I wish the film was up there with the classic films of its genre. Its subject matter does speak for itself, but it needed to be fiercer. When it drifted away from its cold, hard objective to show us the reality, it became less compelling. It was not a hero's journey, but the journey of a man who felt compelled by conscience to expose behaviour which he felt was criminal and compromised people's rights. It's an important film, which reminds us also that art plays a significant role in our society, reflecting us back to ourselves for our collective benefit. And for those reasons, I give the film 3.5 stars also, a really, really solid 3.5
Very
stars.
solid. Yeah.